I thought it'd be a cool idea to go through and rank all of the mainline RE games just to see where I put them now, where they could move after I play Requiem, play some of these games a couple more times throughout the year before then. Just see where I rank them, because I've never sat down and ranked the mainline games for myself before. I mean, I know which ones I like, which ones are like okay, but first one here we have Resident Evil 1 Remake. So Resident Evil 1 Remake, I've played maybe like 3 playthroughs. I've never played through it as Chris. All 3 playthroughs have been as Jill. One thing that made me not want to play as Chris is he gets 2 less inventory slots. It just doesn't look appealing and fun in any way. Say it's one of my favorite out of the remakes. It's definitely my favorite out of the classic, fixed camera angle era of Resident Evil. Doesn't give much tension like the others, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It gives me more like a feeling of comfort, coziness. I just sit back, relax, solve some puzzles, and get through the mansion. You know, here and there, kill some zombies, kill some bioweapons. I feel like the game grows on me the more I play it. But because of the coziness, the vibes, the puzzles are great. I think this one has the best puzzles in the series. I don't think any RE game comes close to the puzzles that are in this one. Maybe 2 comes close. The dialogue, cheesy and corny. One area in this game that I'm not a huge fan of is the underground lab. I think out of all the underground labs that are always, you know, towards the end of Resident Evil games, this is my least favorite. For right now, I'm going to put it in A tier. It's great. I'm not sure if it's a masterpiece just because I don't like the lab area, but A tier for now. A tier for now. All right, up next we have the original RE4. The original RE4 I've played more times than I can remember. I played it on everything. I've played it on PlayStation 2. I played it on GameCube. I've played it on Xbox One, Xbox Series, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and PC. This was the game that started the action era of Resident Evil. Arguably one of the greatest games ever made. It is the one that started the over-the-shoulder POV. It still kind of had tank controls a little bit. You still had to like stand still to like switch directions, and it was pretty clunky. The laser sight was cool. It was very immersive compared to, you know, the reticles that we have now in the modern games. I really liked Leon in this one. Went from being a rookie cop, normal dude from the second one to being a Secret Service agent. He goes to Spain and he's saving the president's daughter. I do like how they switched up. Instead of like a biological disease, it's a parasite. The zombies were kind of smart in this one. They could still like talk and move around and do stuff. And like you get to that first village area and they're all farming, taking care of their area, burning that cop on the stake. I really liked the boss fights. Krauser boss fight was really fun. Final boss was cool. Ada throwing you the rocket launcher. Well, the castle is my favorite part in this game. Phenomenal atmosphere. It's just a great game. This game's huge. The island part of the game definitely lacks a little bit. I don't know. After experience going through the village, it's like, okay, this game's hype. And then you go through the castle and you're like, wow, this game just got better. And then you're like, okay, how can this game get even better? This is peak. And then you get to the island and then it's like, oh, okay, this is not as cool. Because like you start getting shot at with guns and it kind of goes from feeling like you're killing zombies to you're in like a third person like action shooter in a sense. But yes, this game's fun. My most played Resident Evil game by far. I'm gonna put it in great. It's up there with me for RE1, even though I have played it more. Resident Evil 5. All right, so Resident Evil 5 was actually my first Resident Evil game I ever played. Played it on 360. As an introduction to Resident Evil, ever since this game, I have been a big Chris fanboy. Love Chris, favorite character in the whole franchise. Wesker too. Wesker's my favorite villain, and this game was all about Chris and Wesker's rivalry. Great story. This is probably my favorite. No, this is my favorite Resident Evil story in the whole franchise. Chris and Wesker going at it, hunting each other down, running through Africa. They added the new company, Tricell, which I didn't really care for, but it was whatever because it still had Wesker, so it had that feel of Umbrella. The first Wesker fight, and he's like dodging all the bullets, and he has Jill under control. One of my favorite moments in the Resident Evil games. And then the last Wesker fight at the volcano, that was great. You get the rocket launcher. It's just like with the RE1 remake. You get the rocket launcher, and you shoot Wesker. You're in a helicopter, and then the volcano explodes, and then you fly away. It was great. And then for co-op, this game is really good co-op. And this game was definitely built for co-op. You can see it as you're playing through it, especially with the AI for Sheva kind of sucks. I kind of use her as storage. Just give her all the stuff I don't want to carry. except for the herbs, because she'll use the herbs in the most ridiculous moments. You just lose like a sliver of health. So yeah, for it being my first Resident Evil game, it's very close to my heart. And it's got Chris and Wesker, my two favorite characters in the whole franchise. If I'm ranking this off of co-op, I would have to say masterpiece. As a co-op game, it's a masterpiece. But as a Resident Evil game, I'm going to have to go enjoyable but flawed, because Sheva is that bad. This game is half the fun solo as it is co-op, and for that reason, it's going in C tier. Up next, Resident Evil 6. So Resident Evil 6, I've never finished because I get bored of it. All right, next up we have Resident Evil Revelations. So like 6, I haven't finished this one either, but unlike 6, it's not because it's a bad game. I think what makes me not finish it is I just enjoy the other Resident Evil games so much more, and I'd rather just put another playthrough on the other ones instead of going back and finishing this. I do plan on finishing this sometime, hopefully before Resident Evil Requiem releases. This game was actually a 3DS exclusive when it launched. It was later ported to consoles, PlayStation and Xbox and PC. I've played a little bit of it on PC and a little bit of it on Xbox Series. It's enjoyable. You got Jill back. I think this game takes place in the middle of 4 and 5 before Wesker controls Jill. So like you get a little insight of what's going on in between those two games, especially with that large break between 3 and 5 when Jill is leaving Raccoon City and then Wesker has her under control in 5. It's like, okay, what was Jill doing in the meantime? This game kind of covers that a little bit. Chris is in this game too. This game had a really cool mechanic of scanning stuff. Actually, it wasn't even that cool. Honestly, it's pretty unique. It's not really in any other Resident Evil game. It's one of the first things I think of when I think of Revelations. But yeah, that was like the worst part of the game. It also feels a little clunky because it is a 3DS game that was just ported to consoles. They didn't really change it in any way. Except for the features that were like dual screen on the 3DS with the stylus and everything, which I think was the scanning thing, because I never played this on 3DS. But I really like the atmosphere, the vibe of this Resident Evil. A Lovecraft theme to it. We're on a ship, and the ship kind of feels like a mansion a little bit, like it's like a fancy ship, like some Titanic type stuff. And it's like fish zombies. I think it's like a derivative of the T virus. They got like tentacles and stuff, and it was pretty neat. It's got like its own unique vibe, and for that I like it. It still feels very clunky, and for that reason, going in C tier. Okay, up next, the sequel, Resident Evil Revelations 2. I never really knew why it was a sequel. I also have never finished this one. I think I've done like the first 2 episodes, because this was the episodic Resident Evil game. I remember the first episode was free. I played it on 360. And then many years later, I played episode 2 on Xbox One. And then I replayed episode 1 and 2 like 5 months ago, or back when Resident Evil Requiem got announced. I like it a lot more than the first one. It's more creepy feeling, got a more horror vibe to it. It's got a lot of mechanics from games like The Last of Us and then the modern RE games, switching weapons and crafting and all that. You play as Claire Redfield in this one. She does have a little helper. I forgot her name, but she has like a flashlight. She can like find different objects, which is pretty neat, like treasures and upgrades and stuff. I remember, what was it, episode 1, you're going through like a prison, and the puzzles are pretty neat. They're not like Resident Evil 1 level puzzles, but they're not like dummied down like Resident Evil 4. So this game is like split into twos. Like you play like, so you do like one episode at a time, right? The first half of the episode you play as Claire, and then the second half of the episode you play as Barry. And playing as Barry honestly took the show for me over playing as Claire, for the simple fact that Barry hasn't been in a Resident Evil game, or at least a mainline one, I don't think, since Resident Evil 1. So he appeared in Resident Evil 1, didn't even play as him. He was like Jill's helper in that one. He pops up and saves her a few times. But in Revelations 2, you actually get to play as Barry, and I can't remember what he's doing, but he's going on like some mission for something. I remember getting in a boat, he goes to an island, and then he finds this little girl in like a blue or white dress, and she's like the helper. She'll like point out zombies, like you can see zombies through walls with her, and you can like point out secrets, just like the girl for Claire with the flashlight. I really enjoy Barry's part of the game, just for the fact that we finally get to play as Barry. Honestly, a lot of people say they don't like the episodic piece of the game, like how it's split up in episodes, and And to be fair, like I think they wrote the story in a way that it works with episodes. Like I after I finish the episode, I feel like okay, there's a little bit of a cliffhanger. I want to play the second one, but it feels like that piece of the story finished in that episode, and now it's ready to go on to a next episode, which is like another chapter. Like it feels like it's like how the chapters are in other Resident Evil games, and just broken up in episodes. Oh, there was this side game that was similar to Mercenaries, and you can like play as different characters, and you pick up weapons, you go through levels, kill zombies. It's kind of like Mercenaries. It's definitely better than Revelations 1. Is it better than 5 though? I don't think it's better than 5. I think I like 5 a little bit more than Revelations 2. But it's definitely better than Revelations 1. All right, up next, Resident Evil 7. Resident Evil 7 is very special to me. This was the Resident Evil game that made me absolutely fall in love with Resident Evil. I played Resident Evil games before 7. I played like the first episode of Revelations 1. I played the original 4. I played 5. Played a little bit of 6. But 7 is really where I fell in love with the series. And I started going down the rabbit hole of Resident Evil. But this kind of solidified what modern horror was. It kind of evolutionized. It took the next step into what horror games are, what they are now. It took the series into first person, first time. I had this new character, Ethan Winters. This game was heavy with DLC. DLC, phenomenal. They had story DLC. They had like the end of Zoe, which was the girl that was helping Ethan out throughout the game with over the phone. She would like call him and give him tips and tricks. Those added a bunch of mini games. Those were neat. I never finished any of those mini games. But then they had the Not a Hero DLC, which they actually made free. I think they realized that should have been part of the game. It should have been like the ending of the game, because Ethan's going through the game and he's like figuring out these puzzles and fighting the bosses, but you never beat the son. Lucas. You never beat Lucas, and so having the DLC where you play as Chris, you go fight Lucas, was pretty neat. I really enjoyed the puzzles in this game. This is definitely by far the scariest Resident Evil game. This is my second most played Resident Evil game behind 4. I've beaten this game maybe like 8 times. My favorite part of the game is definitely the Lucas trap. He's kind of puts you in like this happy birthday room with this clown that carves your arm, and I remember there's like this candle and these balloons. You got to put the light on the cake. That was peak. It was really good. One thing I don't like about this game, can't skip cutscenes. That was really a drag whenever I'd play it back to back and beat the game in a couple hours, go back and do it again in a couple hours. It was really a drag not being able to skip all that stuff that I've seen a million times. I didn't like the ship towards the end. The ship towards the end, it didn't feel like it had much character to it. It felt very bare. It kind of felt like it was just there as filler to get towards the end of the game. This is one of my favorite games. Everything else in this game does make up for the ship. So the ship, whether it's there or not, this game is a masterpiece for me. This is best one in the series. All right, next we have the 2 remake. Played Resident Evil 2 remake a lot when it launched. I think I ran back through it like at least 4 times with each character, Leon and Claire. Actually, I've never played the original, so this was a first for me. I knew about the original, like it was the RPD, Leon's like a rookie cop, Claire's looking for her brother Chris, like yada yada yada, Mr. X, and the introduction of Ada Wong. So, but like the remake was the first time I've played through that journey, and from what I've heard, it's a pretty faithful remake. I do plan on going back and playing the second one. Actually, let's just put that here, and I have not played. I do plan on going back and playing the second one or Resident Evil Requiem releases. You had like playthrough A and playthrough B. They weren't very much different. Like the puzzles were a little switched around. I think some areas were a little different. Oh yeah, so Claire had like Sherry Birkin, the girl that's all grown up in 6, and then Leon has the Ada segment where she's like super spy running through. It's a great game. The Underground Lab, phenomenal. With most of these RE games, like the endings usually start to lag for me, but the Underground Lab, phenomenal. Puzzles, peak. Right up there with Resident Evil 1. Resident Evil 1 and 2, the best puzzles in the whole series for me. I don't know which one has the better puzzles. I think 1 may have the better puzzles for me, but 2 is right there. Huh, A or S? Is this game a masterpiece for me? I feel like if I have to think about it, it's not. All right, I'm going to put it in great. I think it's slightly better than the 1 remake. Just slightly. I think it's slightly better than the 1 remake just for the fact that it's over the shoulder. If Resident Evil 1 remake was not fixed camera angles and it was over the shoulder, it would definitely outdo Resident Evil 2. Resident Evil 3 remake. All right, while we're talking about this, I haven't played the original. I plan on playing... Actually, I haven't played the first one either. So I haven't played the original trilogy, which is tragic as a diehard Resident Evil fan. But I'm going to play the original trilogy before Requiem comes out. Definitely doing that. Playing all three, back to back to back. So with this game, I've always heard that the original is far better, which I don't know. I've never played the original. From looking at gameplay on the internet, like it definitely looks a lot different, for sure. People always say how Nemesis isn't scripted. You know what? I'm not going to compare how I feel with what other people say about the game. So the way I feel about this game is it feels like a DLC to 2. It takes place before, during, and after 2. And it's what Jill is doing, running around the city, trying to escape. Nemesis is chasing her. That's like the whole thing in the game, Nemesis. They have the side character, Carlos. He's cool. He goes through the hospital to gather ingredients to save Jill. I thought the Nemesis in this game was actually really cool. He's scripted, but like, I don't have a problem with it being scripted. It definitely would be more scary if it was unscripted because it'd be unpredictable. But it still feels really fluid and fun to run through and play it. Like back to back, like just, you know, I know what I'm doing, just go and okay, he's gonna be at this spot. Like it's still fun and addictive gameplay. The puzzles are pretty straightforward compared to like 2 and 7. Like you kind of do like one thing at a time. Okay, I got this fire hose that's gonna go to the fire hydrant. I just saw 2 minutes ago. That's in the way that I need to go. You going into traveling the city was definitely a vibe. Loved it. The whole Nemesis thing, I could run from Nemesis or I could stand my ground and down him. And downing him would give me like upgrades to my pistol and ammo. And I thought that was really cool. It was like, oh, do I really want to waste my resources to get this upgrade or do I just want to run and get to the next area? It was also very short. This was a short Resident Evil game. I don't think it didn't understay its welcome, but it did feel very short. I wish there was a little more. All the boss fights, I believe, all the boss fights were Nemesis, like different stages of Nemesis, which they were cool. They were cool boss fights. I liked them. They were always like in an arena until the final one. You had like this big railgun to take them out. I actually really enjoyed the Nemesis boss fights. They're some of my favorite in the whole series. I've only played it like 3 times. There's not much content. There's like no DLC whatsoever. I'm going to say good, just for the sole purpose that there's lack of content. Resident Evil Village. All right, so Resident Evil Village is the sequel to Resident Evil 7. It carries on Ethan's story like 3 years later. He's in like Romania or somewhere in Europe, and it's like Chris takes his daughter and freaking tells him no and runs away. That right there, horrible storytelling, horrible story direction. I know Resident Evil is known for cheesiness, and this game was very cheesy. Loved it, but the whole Chris just not telling Ethan what was going on was kind of dumb. Like I thought the game was setting up Chris to be a villain, which I thought would have been a cool way to go if they did it right, but it just wasn't the way they went. It was just Chris didn't want to tell Ethan what the heck was going on. So this game had like a little hub area, right? The village, and you unlocked pieces of it as you gotten further in the game. I really like this style of Resident Evil, and I hope they use it again in the future. This is my favorite layout in a Resident Evil game. You got the main hub village, and then it branches off into four paths. You beat like the 4 lords, right? First you go to the castle and then you figure stuff out with Lady Dimitrescu, and then you go to, what was it? The House of Beneviento, which is probably the scariest thing I've seen in a Resident Evil game. More scary than anything in Resident Evil 7. You got that big ugly baby chasing you as you're trying to run and solve puzzles. You have no weapons. And then you got some platforming going on with the fish guy over in the lake. And then you go to the factory, which I thought had a cool aesthetic. Heisenberg, he was turning the zombies into cyborgs. He was giving them like drill hands and like red eyes, and there was this one boss that was, his whole head was a big drill. It was really cool. That was probably my favorite area in the game, and I really liked how you can come back to the village, unlock more stuff optional, and keep moving along. And then they have these little puzzles where you move the platform and you got this ball and then you got some treasure, and then it brought back the merchant from Resident Evil 4. Not the same merchant, but it was the same idea. You had this merchant, and you would, upgrade your stuff, buy more stuff. I really like this Resident Evil. I want to say it's a masterpiece. Yep, 100%. One of my favorites. All right, moving on. Resident Evil 4 Remake. This is the first Resident Evil game where my first playthrough was on hard or hardcore, whatever the hardest difficulty you can play a Resident Evil game before unlocking the next hardest. I believe in this one it's called hardcore. I enjoyed it much better than the original, 100%. They did switch a lot. Like the lake fight was a little different. Like there was some stuff that wasn't in the game, but then some stuff they added. They went with a more serious tone. This game didn't have as much cheese as the original, but they did the serious tone justice. Like it was great. They added more character development to Luis. He didn't die straight away at the castle like he did in the original. He lived a little bit longer. They had the DLC with Ada, the separate ways, phenomenal. Great price too. I was like $10 for like 5 hours of gameplay. I'm all for it. The boss fight's phenomenal. I like the rework too. Bowser's boss fight, that was really fun. That was probably the best change I liked in the game. I like the little nods in the game to the development of the original. Like Leon has a new jacket from the original, and the jacket is actually what it was supposed to be in the original 4 before they scrapped it and remade the original 4 all over again. Yeah, great game. I'm going to say this is a masterpiece. Yeah, it's better than 2. It's better than 1 remake, and it's better than the original 4. Is it better than Village? I think it's better than Village. Is it better than 7? No. It's not better than 7 for the fact that it loses a lot of horror. All right, up next, Resident Evil 0. So I've actually never finished Resident Evil 0 before. I have only done the train segment, and then, I don't know. I think the train blows up or it stops or something, and then I get off, and then I go into a building, and then I stop playing. But for that first part of the train segment, phenomenal. What made me not want to play past the train segment is you got the dual character system where you're playing 2 characters at the same time. There's no item box. You got to drop everything, go back and pick it up on the floor where you dropped it. And that wasn't something I was willing to keep up for any longer past the train segment. Plus, the train was like, I believe, the smallest area in the game. After that, it was houses and mansions and stuff. I wasn't about to go all across the mansion to go pick up something I dropped because there wasn't an item box I could put it in. But for that train segment, great idea. It was cool. It's enjoyable but flawed, but it's like very flawed. So I'm going to put it in mediocre. It's pretty flawed, like to the point where I don't plan on finishing it anytime soon. All right, last up, Code Veronica. I actually have not finished Code Veronica for the simple fact that I just suck. This game is hard. This is the hardest Resident Evil game, hands down. There's not enough healing items. Backtracking is tedious. The most tedious backtracking, like it's not even satisfying to backtrack in this one. Like other games, it's satisfying to backtrack and figure out what you're doing. I really like that it's Claire and Chris share their story. I've actually never gotten to the Chris part, but this is also the game where Chris starts his rivalry with Wesker, where it really grows into a hatred for each other. And this is where it's revealed that Wesker has all these powers as well. Very neat. They have the Ashford family. Claire is able to dual wield like SMGs. That was really cool. Yeah, it's a neat Resident Evil game, but it's too tedious to get through. Way too tedious. It's enjoyable but flawed. I want to put it in mediocre, but it's way better than 0. But wait, do I think it's better than Revelations 1? Okay, so I think Code Veronica is better than Revelations 1 and 2. So I'm gonna put it enjoyable but flawed. All right, I think that's all of them. Okay, so yeah, here's my tier list. Do I want to change anything around? So at number 1, my top favorite Resident Evil game, Resident Evil 7. And then next I have 4 Remake. And then next is Village. Next is 2. You know what? I'm going to switch 2 and 1 Remake. I really like 1 Remake a lot more. And then after that is 4. And then 3, 5, Code Veronica, Revelations games, 0, 6, and then not played. That looks good. So this is my my ranking of Resident Evil before Resident Evil 9 comes out. We'll see how it changes